Hi, I'm Leeza. I'm an international transformation specialist, and today I want to talk about something that touches every part of our lives, even when we don't even realize it. And that is the difference between the idea we have of success and our experience of our self-worth. So we live in a world that is literally obsessed with what's commonly understood as success in achieving things and performing and getting validation and accomplishing goals. And it's not that there's anything wrong with any of that, but true peace, the satisfaction and the freedom that we're looking in success only comes from something deeper. And that's in knowing your worth is already intact. There's no achievement and no failure. No opinion can change that. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So have you ever felt like you are only as good as your last success? Like you only feel good about yourself if you did something well? And what happens if it doesn't go well? So have you ridden that roller coaster of praise and criticism and feeling high one moment and then crushed the next? That's what happens when our identity rests on success instead of on our self-worth. And today I want to show you why you don't have to hustle for your value because it was never up for negotiation. It simply is. So let's start with clarity, understanding the difference between success and self-worth. Okay? So success is conditional, right? It rises and it falls based on what you achieve or how others perceive you. Think about people who are on the cover of magazines or who have a prominent position, or who have a lot of money. And then at some point that goes away, or something happens that tarnishes their reputation, right? So our success is very conditional on circumstances. Self-worth, however, has no conditions, ever. You can know your worth because you are. It's this quiet, unwavering truth that you are valuable simply because you exist. And clarity begins when you realize that you are not your achievements, you are not your mistakes, you are worthy always before you even lift a finger. And if you're like some of us, you may not have learned this when you were growing up, right? You didn't get that reflection back that you were worthy. You might have gotten just the opposite message, that you are only good when you XYZ, when you do this, when you become that, when you achieve this level, right? That's the messaging our society gives us. And it's also what we get often from family, from school, from our social circles. So that corporate colonized messaging equates our worth as humans to what we achieve. And it's simply not so. It's a construct that's been created. So let's talk about ownership, because when you claim that inherent value, that simply is, and you, I want to say, debunk the belief that your value is equated to what you achieve, you have a whole different experience of yourself. And also, you walk in the world differently. So, owning your self worth means that you no longer outsource your value to the world around you. You stop living for the likes on social media or for applause and acknowledgement or promotions at work or approval for whatever it may be at work or in your private world. You may enjoy those things, but they're not going to determine how you feel about yourself. And that's the distinction, okay? And that's owning your value. And you can start affirming, I'm enough because I am. So no title, no trophy, no validation is required for that. You are enough and you are worthy because you are. So if you ever put all of your effort into something and it doesn't work out, or people don't appreciate it, right? We've learned to measure our worth according to what responses we get or what the outside world tells us, rather than measuring it according to our investment in that outcome, in that project, in that relationship, right? So we turn within. That's how we know our value. It is not dependent on externals. It's nice to get that, but it's not mandatory. You alone decide if you are worthy, and you are. So ownership of your value isn't arrogance, just the opposite. It's a quiet, grounded self-respect. And from that place, you can come and meet others and see their value as well. And that's an invitation for them to see their own value. So let's talk about resolution. in healing this addiction we have to external validation, right? So chasing success often leads to burnout. I work with a lot of leaders, a lot of professional people that get burned out because they're just always running, doing more, trying to be more, trying to perform, right? Success also leads to anxiety, like we have to do stuff. And also, then we end up disconnecting from ourselves, right? You may disconnect because you feel like you have to perform or you have to do something that actually isn't aligned with your values or it isn't something you really, really want. So resolution comes when you step off that treadmill and you make peace within yourself. You make peace. If you want to do it outside, that's fine. But you make peace within yourself with those events that maybe reflect something back to you about your value, or with those people, or maybe even the memories that tell you something different about your self-worth, right? That you're not enough, that you're not okay unless you do one, two, three. So you can speak to those naysayers and you can say something like, you may not like this, or you may not even like me, but that doesn't change my worth and the value that I'm bringing to this table. And then know that to be true. So I'll give you an example. I had been hired, I was in an interviewing process at the last stage for an organization that did really phenomenal work, a nonprofit in Bolivia. And it was very much aligned with my values, helping indigenous cultures, helping women and children, not only to health, but also to prosperity and bringing their goods to the world. Just really a beautiful, beautiful organization. So I was invited to an interview with the board, and the board was only 3 people. One of them was the owner, who was amazing. The other one was the director, also amazing. And then there was a third person who was the lawyer. And for whatever reason, she just came into that situation with a lot of negativity. Now, maybe it was personal toward me, or maybe that's just how she walked in the world. In any case, everything that I brought and that these other 2 people saw as useful for the organization, she shot it down. She was negative. She was really pointedly cruel, if you will, about me personally, about the work that I do, the type of work I do. I just didn't go well into that conversation. And at some point when I recognized this and I realized she's actually attacking me. She may have a difference of opinion of what I bring to the table, but she was attacking who I am. And I stopped and I said, you know what? I just have to say, this is not how I want to be treated. It's not how I deserve to be treated. We all are worthy of kindness and respect, and so am I. And this doesn't feel good because I'm not getting that respect here. I'm not being treated for the worth that I am. And I said, if that's how you're going to proceed, then you may want to find somebody else. And they did. And that's okay. Because I was not going to have someone, anyone, belittle me and disvalue what I bring to the table. And so that was hard because it was something I really wanted to do. But in the end, it would never have worked out long run for me because those aren't the values that I have. And anybody that is supporting that kind of behavior toward others is also not an organization that I would want to work for in the end, right? So when you know, when you own your value and when you resolve those circumstances where it's not being recognized, you end up in the driver's seat of your own experience. So when you realize you don't have to earn your place in the world, you begin to live differently. And you also love differently. You you create and you there's a sense of freedom to give and grow, not without proving anything. And it's again not arrogance, it's an ease with yourself because you are valuable, it's who you are. So let's look at excellence, living from that foundation of true worth. And true excellence is not fueled by insecurity or comparison. It's not like I'm only good or I'm excelling in comparison to somebody who isn't at all, right? Excellence is rooted in our wholeness. It's rooted in you knowing your value is worthy and it's needed and it's appropriate in every situation of your life. Now, you may express your value in different ways depending on circumstances, but that highest and best that you bring to the table is always good and it's always wanted. Yeah? So it's hard to shine and know your value when other people feel small or are resentful, but you still can't because people do feel small. They feel frustrated when they're with people who know their value. Don't let that stop you because it's actually an invitation to them for them to recognize their own value, right? It's not either or. Well, if I know my value, you can't at all. It's just the opposite, really. When you bring your value to the table, when you rest in that knowing and you bring that excellence forward, it does invite other people to do the same, because then the competition falls away. No one has to be better than anyone else. You all come together and have something to contribute. So excellence is bringing your complete value and capacity to the forefront, respectfully, for your own satisfaction and also for the betterment of everyone who's involved. And it's literally independent of whether others see you, of whether they understand you, or even appreciate your value. You can know your worth and you can bring your excellence no matter what. So when you live from self-worth, you pursue growth, not because you have to fix yourself, there's nothing to fix, but because you're excited to expand what's already there, what's already good, what's already sacred and enough, right? You rise not to be worthy, you rise because you are worthy, right? It turns that narrative around. So I'd like to give you an action takeaway, something you can do this week, all right? I invite you to notice when you're trying to prove something, when you're tying your worth to a specific outcome. And it may be so frequent you're, head spinning, or it may be hard to identify. Either way, just set an intention to recognize when you are tying your worth to a specific outcome, a performance, a relationship or response from someone else, the number on a scale, or even the number in your bank account, whatever it is. And then take a pause. Just recognize it, take a pause, and then remind yourself, truly feel and know, I'm worthy because I exist. Say it to yourself out loud if you can. And everything else is interpretation of data. It has no meaning or impact on your worth. So practice anchoring your identity in being, and not in doing, and not in accomplishing, and not on externals. And at the end of the day, acknowledge yourself. At the end of every day before you go to sleep, acknowledge yourself for one way that you were that day. One way that you brought your joy and your value into the world, even if it was only to yourself or if it was in a situation. And try that out for a week and let me know how it goes. So if this message helped you step away from straining for success, or it helped you come back to yourself, helped you remember that your value is not on trial, then like this video, subscribe for more, and share it with someone who's also ready to stop hustling and who's ready to settle into their own worth. If you're ready to build your life on unshakable truth of your worth and your value, you'll find other programs and resources here linked below. You are enough. You always have been, and you always will be. You can trust that. Be well.